The new year is here, and as always, financial times seem a bit iffy. With that, it's easy to spend money on things that may seem important, but in reality are sucking your bank account dry. And these usually aren't big ticket items either. It's those small drips that can accumulate to big dollars. Now, I suspect you're gonna have a tough time controlling what the world economy is doing, but you might have an easier time managing the money going out of your wallet. With that said, let's talk about 7 things you should stop wasting money on this year. But first, if you don't know me, I'm Spencer, and I like to talk about simple living, frugality, and ditching digital distraction, sometimes with the help of other technologies. Let's get started. So the first category you gotta stop wasting money on this year is last minute fast food. Now, a lot of people have health goals around the new year, including myself, and fast food is just not gonna get you there. My girlfriend likes to say that you can have it 3 ways. You can have it fast, you can have it cheap, and you can have it good, but you can only pick 2 of them at once. And I think with fast food, it's a situation where I guess it's fast and it's good, it's pretty tasty, but it's not gonna be cheap, it's gonna be pretty tough on your wallet, and it's gonna make it generally harder to save money when you have that constant drip of money going toward that fast food cost. Now, I'm not saying you have to quit fast food altogether, but what I'm trying to focus on this year is fast food as a last minute fill in, a band-aid because you didn't plan. You know, it's often said if you fail to plan, then you should plan to fail. And with food, this is certainly the case. But if you find some good strategies that work for you this year, like coming up with a simple meal plan, finding some recipes that you like to cook and that you can make in a pinch, or even making some food that you really enjoy, some good comfort meals, and sticking them in the freezer so in those moments where you weren't planning, you're able to heat those things up and you don't have to look to fast food to be your solution. And honestly, guys, I enjoy some fast food from time to time myself, and I'm not saying you have to ditch it altogether, but I think it's just about being intentional. And when you actually want those things, you can go out and actually select it rather than it just being a last minute fill in because you didn't plan. That is the main thing that we want to ditch in 2025. We want to ditch that failure to plan. We want to be a little bit more intentional with what we're consuming and where we're spending our money. So with that, let's move on to number 2. The second thing you want to stop spending money on this year is that daily cup of takeout coffee. Now, this one can really drip you dry if you're not careful, and you can save some big money by cutting that category, and you'll be saying thanks a latte to Spencer's Adventures. Now, of course, how much somebody spends on coffee is going to be largely dependent on what their order is. If you're just having that standard cup of Black Joe, it's going to be a little bit cheaper than if you're getting the Starbucks mocha cookie crumble or something like that. But it's not really that much about the cost of that individual cup, it's the accumulation of purchasing that every single day over the course of a year. In 2021, it was estimated that the average American spent between $1,900 and $2,300 USD every year on that daily cup of coffee. That isn't pocket change anymore. You can see that that daily cup of coffee really adds up over the year to big dollars. I've had 3 different cars over the years that have cost less than $2,300 USD, and I could have paid for them outright just by not getting that daily cup of Joe. Now, of course, I'm not telling you to cut that cup of coffee altogether, but there are ways to reduce that cost quite a bit by making it at home. Pretty much any way you slice it, you can make coffee cheaper at home, no matter how fancy you do it. If you're somebody who likes lattes, which can get quite pricey day after day, you might want to invest in something like an espresso machine, which is going to be able to make that coffee for you still for a fraction of the cost of the cafe. Or if you're like me, a simple man with his drip, you just might want to step up a little bit on the quality of the beans you're buying. This might take the price of the coffee at the grocery store up a little bit, but it still is going to be a fraction of what you would pay if you were to get it outside the house. And if you're somebody who enjoys the experience of going to the cafe, I definitely don't want to take that away from you either. I think once again, we have to just come back to being intentional about doing this. Now, I honestly wouldn't dream about going out for coffee every day anymore because that's just not how I want to spend my money. But I still like to go to a cafe, sit down with my journal, have an espresso and write for an hour or something once a week. And that is something that I really enjoy and that I always allocate my time and my money toward. But I definitely enjoy that a lot more than when I was just going to grab my coffee on my daily commute, because it's an intentional choice that I go out and I make, and I enjoy it a lot more when I sit there and I experience it. I think when something becomes that type of ingrained habit that we do it every single day, it it becomes even a reflex, and it becomes something that almost is second nature and that we take for granted and don't nearly appreciate as much as when we get it once in a while. So go out and enjoy that nice cup of coffee, but find ways that you can do it on the cheap, and I think you're going to be a lot happier as a result. Moving on to the third thing that just isn't worth wasting the money on this year, and that is subscription services, and particularly ones that you aren't really benefiting from. Now, I talk a lot about subscription services on this channel and how you can cut down on them or cut them out if you so desire. I'll link a video above that I recently did on the topic if you're interested. Now, subscription services are certainly one of the top dogs for wasting people's money. It's one of those things where you sign up for it and it continually costs you money even if you're no longer benefiting from the service. Now, the numbers vary, but there was one report that I saw that said that Americans spend an average of $273 a month on subscriptions. And most don't even know they're paying close to that, and that's because of what I like to call subscription clutter. So take stock of all your subscriptions, really lay them out and just see what you're paying for in the first place, and then determine which ones are you actually benefiting from and which are just clutter. If you pay for multiple streaming services, definitely consider cutting some of those out. I think that people just like to have the endless options more than actually intentionally subscribing to stuff to watch whatever shows they want to see and then getting rid of them to move on to something else. Try to do that in the future and you'll save a lot of money as a result. If you have a gym membership that you've not been benefiting from, I think it's important to just get real, even around the new year, whether you're actually going to go to this or whether it's just going to be a needless cost. Last year, I found myself in a similar predicament. I had signed up to a gym hoping that I was going to go, but I really didn't find myself going too often. That gym membership was also not cheap. It was like $50 a month. So what I ended up doing as a compromise was I canceled the gym membership altogether, saved that money, and I ended up buying 2 kettlebells on Facebook Marketplace with some of the money. Now, to get both of these cost me about $100, the cost of 2 months at this gym. But as a result, I've been able to work out at home, get just as much fitness as I would at the gym, and I was able to save on over a year of membership, which is like $600. I also got a really good deal on my phone plan last year on Boxing Day and was able to cut my average phone bill in half. Finding little ways like this to clean up subscription clutter, it can really cause a snowball effect for your finances where you can save a lot of money even though each of these subscriptions on their own don't seem like a big deal. If you still pay for something like a cable package or you're just paying for a selection of streaming services, you can try a few different cost-saving alternatives to that as well. There's tons of different free streaming services out there that are free with ads, and you can even watch live TV on some of these providers like Pluto. I myself also bought a pair of bunny ears for my TV, and I get like 8 local channels. I get the news, I get things like the Oscars or the Grammys whenever they come on, I get the Super Bowl. I just get to keep updated with live television whenever I want it, and it only cost me like $20 once to purchase these. If you want to see a video on cutting subscription costs like that, then check out the video I did above. Moving on to the fourth thing, which you should just really not be spending your money on this year, and you should just not be spending your money on at all, and that is fast fashion. If you haven't seen the documentary The True Cost, definitely check that one out. It gives you a good look into the fast fashion world and all of the harms from it. In fashion, there is definitely not 4 seasons a year anymore. There's at least 52 seasons, one for every week. The reality is that clothes are being made cheaper and cheaper, labor practices are a nightmare, and the quality has taken a nosedive. It may seem like a modern industrial marvel that we can get a t-shirt for $5, but that is not a good thing. That is because somebody is getting screwed somewhere in that production process, and it's a lot of different people actually. And while obviously this is a nightmare from a labor perspective, it also screws us as consumers. Because clothes are so cheap, people are drawn to buying them more and more, and these companies are pushing out new styles faster and faster, and we are drawn to consume. The result is we're spending money on a ton of clothes just to clutter our closets, and we may not even like the clothes because we're not being even remotely intentional around picking them. I think the ticket here is to invest in higher quality clothing and then take good care of them. If you're gonna buy new, supporting brands that have good labor practices is at least a good start, but also making sure that you're paying attention to quality so that these garments last. And of course, clothing isn't going to last forever, so you also need to learn how to repair. please do not be embarrassed to be seen with repaired clothes. I see it as a badge of honor to show that I have put in the work to keep these clothes out of the landfill for as long as possible. I'll show you right now. The jeans that I'm wearing, the crotch is pretty much blown out of them. I haven't done the prettiest job, but I've patched them up and I'm wearing them just fine. And these jeans only cost me $8 secondhand. So after a year of wearing them, I don't mind patching them up. They don't owe me anything. So buy high quality brands if you're buying new. Take a look at the secondhand market. There's great deals at thrift stores from high-end brands that have just been given away because people are keeping up with the Joneses, and you can get them for a lot cheaper than new and often in great quality. And then don't be afraid to repair things, because that's the way that we can keep things out of the landfill. We need to get to a culture of repair once again. We need to see things staying out of the landfill and making them last for as long as possible. Use it up, wear it out, make it do without. Now, moving on to the fifth thing that just isn't worth spending your money on this year, and that is the newest technology upgrades. Now, I buy almost all of my stuff secondhand, and I've saved a lot of money doing so. I'll link a video above where I talked all about that topic too if you're interested. Now, this can feel tough sometimes because the tech industry lives on you upgrading every single year. They want you to have that fear of missing out, so you feel the need to upgrade even when you don't. For me, the main reason why I pretty well never buy new, especially when it comes to technology, is because you're able to get such good deals on very good technology from people who are upgrading because they're just worried about keeping up with the Joneses. I've bought my cameras, my laptops, and almost all of my phones secondhand, and I've saved thousands of dollars as a result. Because every time you buy something new, there's always going to be that hit of depreciation the second you take it out of the store or drive it off the lot, so to say. But if you buy secondhand, you have cut that depreciation out altogether and you can save big. It also means that when it finally comes time for you to upgrade again, by buying secondhand and selling secondhand, you're going to have a very low cost to upgrade as opposed to somebody who bought new, traded the item in, and then bought new again. Because I'm buying my computers secondhand, I'm usually paying about 50% or less of what they would have cost new, and when it comes time to upgrade for me, by the time I sell that computer and go and buy another one, it's usually only a couple $100s to make that jump to the newer model. And one more little side rant here. If you ever find yourself buying the newest phone, please do not buy the case and screen protector from Apple. They charge so much money for that. I've had iPhones. In fact, I have an iPhone right now, but I've never bought a new one from Apple, and I would never ever buy a screen protector or case from them. They charge like $50 to put a screen protector on an iPhone and more than that for a case. Please go to Amazon and buy one of the $10 cases with a screen protector. I promise it is basically no different in quality, and Apple is not charging that extra money so that they can pay workers better. Okay, so moving on to the sixth thing which you should not be wasting your money on this year, and that is on new cars. If you want to talk about depreciation, look no further than the car industry. Driving that vehicle off the lot, 10% is gone instantly. And then you talk about a subscription service basically bleeding you dry, and financing a car has got you covered for that too. People get into the mindset of needing to have a new car, and therefore for the rest of their adult life, they have a car payment. For people who want to buy their car new, the average US monthly car loan is $737, around $1,000 Canadian. And if you look at people who have had these car payments every single month for their entire adult life, that can add up to being over $100,000 a decade. Now, there's for sure a stigma around buying vehicles secondhand, like they're somehow going to be way less reliable than the vehicle was new. But secondhand could only be a few years old, and all of these so-called great vehicles of today will be the secondhand vehicles of tomorrow. So get the deal and buy them used. You know, I've never bought a new car, and I suspect that I never will. I've always bought my cars secondhand. They've been less than 10 grand, well less than 10 grand each, and I've never had any catastrophic issues with them. I think as long as you're being intentional, you're doing your research, checking on things like consumer reports, making sure you're buying from good brands that make reliable vehicles like Toyota or Honda, you're not going to run into issues buying secondhand, and instead you're going to save a lot of money. If the average new car payment is around $700 a month and you don't have that car payment, then you're going to have a lot of money freed up in your budget in case a repair comes along. And folks, with that, my seventh and final thing that I think you shouldn't be wasting your money on this year is extended warranty for products. I pretty much never go in for extended warranties. It just doesn't seem like a good value to me. I think warranties and insurance policies are really a way for these businesses to make extra money and not really a way to cover your butt. I don't think they would have them around if it was actually a super good deal for the consumer. The reality is that you're most likely never going to need to make one of these warranty claims. You're just paying the money just in case something bad happens. But some of these warranties can cost upwards of $100. So if you take all of those costs for potential warranties and you pool that money instead of buying the warranty in a savings account, then if something inevitably does happen, you can allocate the cash that you've saved to repair or buy a new one of those products outright, and I suspect you'll have a lot of money left over still. And most products come with a standard warranty from the manufacturer anyway, that's going to cover any issues that come along in the first year, let's say. I think most of the time this is more than enough, and it's better to just take that money you would put toward extended warranties and save it for something else. That's just about all I have to say today, guys. I think that 2025 is going to be a year for us to stop spending on junk and start making more financially sound choices. By cutting back in these 7 areas, you can take control of your finances and allocate that money toward things that really matter. So what are the things that you plan to stop spending on in 2025? If there's something that I missed that you think's worth skipping out on, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey folks, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I just wanted to let you guys know that I now have a Spencer's Adventures Patreon, which you can join if you're interested in supporting the channel. There's a couple different tiers you can choose from with an array of benefits, including ad-free videos, your name in the credits of these videos, early access to upcoming videos, special updates and content, as well as monthly Patreon exclusive videos. I've made over 100 videos on here and I have no intent of stopping. The Patreon is a good way if you want to connect with me and support the work I do. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.